This is a free podcast from the BBC. For more information, you can go to our website, bbc.co.uk/Radio 2.
I saw that little Doris Little Doris omnibus on the weekend, says Chaffer Danbridge. Well, I say I saw. It was so murky, it was like watching something on the radio. How true that is. Dickens, a very depressing writer, and one who wrote mostly in the dark. All adds to the atmosphere, though. I'd like to congratulate John Alderton, and so would I, on the finest display of whiskery acting I've seen in decades. Yes, I think that the beard had a mind of its own, and indeed the hair. It seemed to be acting ahead of John Alderton. He'll bring whiskers back into fashion, you mark my words. Sorry to hear you're curtailing smut on Radio 2. Now, we're just hoping for the dust to settle. It means you can't read out my new ad for Rufus nail bags. The company... I thank you, Chaffer. Edna Cloud. Even though the doom and gloom merchants tell us winter is a-coming in, all I want to say is, hurrah, it's November. What an exciting month. The launch of the Bandage CD this week. Yes, I'll tell you more about that. An opportunity to help children in need. And unfortunately, listen to the likes of me singing. And of course, Children in Need on the 14th. Quickly followed by the Togs Voyage, which of course has been very well subscribed and will make a ton of money for children in need. Dr. Peter Roebuck of Bankfoot in Perthshire says, Bruce Forsyth says is, Tess Daly says ah, Jonathan Ross says sorry, Russell Brandt says ta-ta. I think that probably sums it up. So it's up to you, Satel, to bring back the sanity we seek. So the timing, despite it all, is just right to kick off Children in Need next week. Yes, I've had a lot of letters from you saying the fuss and palaver over Radio 2 is not going to detract one whit from our contributions to children in need, nor, indeed, would I expect it to from Radio 2 listeners. Severial millions you've given in the past. I know you're going to do us proud this year. Your words last week, says Callum McRae of Kirkcaldy, a stark reminder when you said, let's get back to doing what Radio 2 does best. Well, we've a lot of letters from people saying that's as it should be, and that's the way it's going to be. And particularly in these 2 weeks when so many Radio 2 listeners make such marvellous contributions to children in need. Tiny Artist is another one who writes in saying that we're going to do our best. Here's a tip to get 3 times the pleasure of the impending Radio 2 firework display. Yes, that's coming up on Wednesday. Oh, a firework display on a worldwide scale. People can see it on the wireless as far afield as British Columbia. Because listening to Wake Up to Wogan on a DAB radio is about 2 seconds behind an FM radio, and listening via the internet's another 2 seconds behind the DAB. You can get 3 displays for the price of 1. Turn on to all 3 and watch it all. Oh, Frank, it's all before us. And a lot of stuff is behind us, thank goodness. I heard you mention the cruise for children in need. Is there still places? Well, look, Jane Carey, yes, I'm sure there is. And all you got to do is go to www.togscalendar.org, isn't it? No, .com. Or possibly .co.uk. Anyway, or www.charitygoods, one word, .com. Just follow the track and they'll give you all the information needed. Now, Deadly, the old voice of the bowls, a tireless worker for charity, came to Colchith near Warrington, the Wyres, yesterday to host one of his quizzes in aid of children in need and raised a total of £2,007, including gift aid. Thank Warren at the Harrow Inn for all his support. Dora, I'm sure it was a terrific day. And well done to Deds, and well done to all of you out there raising money for children in need. As I say, Radio 2 raised more than $1 million last year. Are we going to do it this year? You better believe it. Look, being short of friends, I have lots of mobile phones in the hope of picking up some wrong numbers. I've decided to get rid of them and give them to children in need. Yes, you can. That's a good idea, Barnsley Chop. I have 4 phones ready to send. Could you tell simple folk who don't have internet and only communicate with thee via semaphore or smoke, if they also want the chargers and the batteries? Well, you could. Send the batteries and the chargers by all means. Send whatever you can. And David also wants to know what the address is. And I only sent off one today, but I only addressed it to Free Post and phone back, because that was the original information. But now, just get your mobile phone in an envelope, write Free Post BBC Children in Need on it. Okay? And send it off. That's the quickest way to do it. And Regeneris are hoping to raise £1 million this year if we all do it. SpongeBob Grumpy Pants says, "What's all this I hear about you participating in Strictly?" Well, no, not Strictly. Just the Strictly bit that we're going to do on children in need. I hope you satisfy the minimum requirements. 2 left feet, absolutely no rhythm, tone deaf, and an uncanny likeness to Joe Brand. Who could you possibly be pointing the finger at there? I've got some old diving boots you can borrow. They'll assist you in gaining the public's admiration. That's all we need, is the public's admiration. And, we've had a couple of letters about this. Anachronisms on the television. Terry Dakitor says, and indeed so does Alicia Sober. Wonderful. Obviously Merlin has the gift of prophecy, but in Saturday's show he said of the king, "He'd have me in the stocks faster than you could say rotten tomatoes." Sadly, the tomato was discovered in America some hundreds of years in the future. And to cap it all, Merlin later claimed to have potatoes thrown at him. They, of course, were also a product of New World exploration. I think possibly you may be picking holes, or indeed leaning against open doors, picking holes where there are none to pick. Merlin, it's not actually factually accurate. You know, it's not historical. Neither was King Arthur. He wasn't real either. Okay. Could happen any time. And anyway, Merlin was a magician. He's with us now. Anyway, I've just viewed the webcam for the first time. Well, Louise, the first time for all of us, isn't it? I can see the resemblance to Sir Terry in the charming portrait. Yes, the portrait, because it's National Sausage Week, as you know. Not that I'm soliciting snorkers, but there was a representation of my good self, food as art. And on a bed of mashed potatoes, there I was, made up of sausages. So I can see the resemblance in the charming portrait. Who's the Egypt in pink behind it? Love the show, Steve. Keep up the good work. Nobody ever says that to me. Keep up the good work. Love the show. Nothing. Could you please use your influence to stop that woman on Strictly saying, in the event of... Sorry. I can't do a Bolton accent at this hour of the morning. In the event of a tie, Len will have the casting vote. If there are 3 other judges, how can there be a tie? Look, Paul, all I can say to you is this. 7, at long last, and not before time. What's that, Tansy? Phew. We appear to have finally reached the final round of that election. What election? What? Oh, that one. It seems to have been with us since Lewis Hamilton was driving pedal cars and climate change a twinkle in the eye of Al Gore. People have grown up, married, and lived their lives to the full in the time it's taken our American cousins to select a president. They haven't got him yet, and there'll be no respite. With our luck, they'll start campaigning for the next election early next week. Well, I wouldn't be surprised at all. It seems to have been a long, hard road, doesn't it? I really don't know why, says Alison Ortno. Abigates Erlison. About doing strictly dancing for children in need. No, I'm beside myself. I'm sick with worry, anyway. Anyone with exceptional ball skills and coordination, well, I suppose so, you know. Naturally light on the old feet. Hugh displayed recently isn't going to have a problem with a little bit of dancing. No, it's what's her name? Yeah, Tess. I'm worried about Tess. She's too big. What a week I've had, says Willie. Oh, really? You must share it with us. One of our dogs has died. I have a chicken that's not going to last much longer. The daughter's pony is not the Mae West. Our visitor's car broke down. I'm laid up in bed, as the old arthritis has done for me ankles. And to cap it all, as Mrs. Eckerslike came out of the supermarket yesterday, the big issue seller told her we were all in for very hard times ahead. He should know. 2 weeks ago, he was my bank manager. I think the Banger brothers are heading for sainthood. That's all I'm saying. I was incognito. Don't you worry about anything. Why would we be worrying? And up to our armpits in cream cakes and bangers and snorkers and little bits of cucumber and everything. What?
Oh, it's wonderful.
Isn't it? It's wonderful.
It's marvellous.
Watching the Grand Prix at the weekend, people say to me, "Did you watch the Grand Prix?" And I said, "No, because I'm not a petrol head. I'm not one of those that thinks that watching cars going meow, meow is entertainment." But obviously it was tremendously thrilling and a wonderful victory for Lewis Hamilton, and hats off to him. Helmets off to him. I was struck I could be world champion too, says Sterling Moth. If only I had the same experience when I pop into the local tyre emporium to have me wheels done. Compare and contrast, if you will. Lewis pulls into the pits, has a refuel, 4 wheels done in 6.5 seconds, and off he goes about his business. Whereas I pull into Speedy Wheels, Dave, the manager, comes and asks me, "What's up?" after he's finished talking to a colleague about the footy for 5 minutes. Half an hour later, he gets me car on a hydraulic ramp, hits the underside with a rubber mallet, inhales deeply, and then goes off for a cuppa. I finally get back on the road 6.5 hours later. It's all a matter of degree, really, isn't it? Not the same.
You're listening to the Wake Up to Wogan podcast from BBC Radio 2.
Now, of course, Barack. Barack is the new prez. Your point of view, if you will. Now he's been elected president of the United States, America. Will news commentators stop encouraging the public to Barack or Barack Obama? I wonder, will they? As I say, today's a special day here, where our virtual firework display. It will not obscure or indeed blind you to children in need, because I won't allow it. And Tansy says, the world's indeed gone mad. Yes, indeed, that's just the colour, that's the sparkling. And I do hope that you will bear in mind that this is the only firework display that you do not have to put the kiddies and the little ones away in case they'd be frightened. And the dogs and cats, of course, and llamas and marsupials. So, in this time of financial crisis and credit crunch, the government sees fit to ignore all our woes and issue new guidelines for pet owners. I'm a member of a club, and I made a suggestion yesterday that, because there was a previous suggestion that we should be allowed to bring guests with us to our regular lunches. And I thought we could also bring pets. Nothing bigger than a chihuahua. Anyway, the new guidelines for pet owners. No longer will it be enough to feed and house them. No. Pet owners must now provide entertainment and mental stimulation for their pets. Oh, no. The pet police will be watching and churning out fines for those who are found wanting. Oh, look, the dog is smiling. Now, is it me? Says Tansy. Well, to be safe, I'm going to bring the chickens inside tonight to see Autumn Watch, followed by a shopping trip on Saturday. Very good idea, Tansy. Yeah, I'm not sure about the shopping trip, though. They might get unnerved at the butchers. Would you use your historic influence at the BBC, which is, Pete, negligible, and send some journalists around to my historic house so I can pontificate on the historic elections? Yes, we've noticed that historic is a word that's being used just a little bit too much. 1, I am the only person in the world not to have been interviewed about the American elections. 2, I can use the word historic 15 times in one sentence. 3, I know nothing about the consequences of Barack's historic victory, but I'm willing to waffle on about it. And 4, I can use the word historic to describe virtually anything. Yes, I know. Oh, my children were bitterly disappointed. Oh, it's bitter weather, isn't it? I know, man, bitterly disappointed. Fireman Tam here. During the coverage of the American presidential election, at one point, the BBC showed a crowd chanting, "Yes, we can! Yes, we can!" but then cut away from the scene without waiting for Bob the Builder to show up. Talk about building expectations. I had to put on DVDs for the rest of the evening. Come on, BBC, you can do better. Here's the first. Yvonne Williamson says, I've seen the first Christmas tree in a house in Darlington. That's fantastic. The 5th of November, the first Christmas tree in the front room of a house in Darlington. I am sitting, not sat, in front of my radio, and amazed you admitted there was a script to your show. I thought it was all done on the run. Are you kidding? This kind of polish, this kind of honed brilliance, just made up. Tish. You must have an amazing scriptwriter to work in all those mistakes. Chest of drawers. Go and ask my granny. My little dog, Topsy. Look, there's another one. Oh, look. Oh, I do love just the interchange of colours that you get. I've just been sat on my lap, sitting, possibly, Gemma, watching the beige, taupe and puce virtual fireworks in the webcam. We have colours that other people can only wish for. Last night she had her hair trimmed, so she was looking her best for this auspicious occasion. The awe and wonder of this precipitous event has overwhelmed her so much she's had to go and have a doggy power nap. Fireworks much appreciated. Well, we do our best to lighten a dull autumnal day. Can you be so, you see, always the begrudgery. How can you be so irresponsible as to waste our virtual money on your extravagant virtual pyrotechnic display? As all my money, and possibly that of the whole country, is now virtual, I feel you're driving us into more virtual debt. There's a high degree of virtual reality about your actions. And Keith Marshall says, and he's a cruel man, as a treat, I'm allowing my form, Keith's a teacher, to listen to the fireworks. They think you're funny. Funny ha-ha or funny peculiar?
You're listening to the Wake Up to Wogan podcast from BBC Radio 2.
And a very good morning to you. I'm just a bit nosy this morning. Maybe I shouldn't have had that flu jab. I was interested to note that on Desperate Housewives, there's Nick Gregory, one of my favourites. You're my favourite. On C5, there are 2 producers, 2 consultant producers, 1 supervising producer, 4 executive producers and 5 producing executives. That's 15 producers in all. The list takes 10 minutes of screen time to name them all. How come Wake Up to Wogan gets by on 1? Come to think of it, it's a very silly question, yes. Don't be ridiculous. A big up to your team. Love the show, see? Love the show. We've had an unsolicited testimonial here. Now, having said that, I have a complaint, you see, of course. As always, the sock filled with wet sand behind the ear. Regarding your so-called pet-friendly fireworks yesterday, indeed, pets and kiddies, and no need to be afraid. Lady Jane and I were looking after our next-door neighbour's budgie when a deadly dazzler, followed by a buggy boomer, sent the thing completely doolally. I can't speak for caged birds. From then on, all through the display, whizzing round its cage, smacking against the bars, bell and mirror like a demented shuttlecock, only coming to rest when Ken Bruce came on. Yes, he does have a restful effect, not just on budgies and caged birds, but everybody nods off to Ken. Please tell me where I can get hold of a soundproof cover ready for next year. Must go. Still cleaning out the bottom of the cage. A nasty job. Alicia Sober says, from Wednesday night's ITV News, the scale of Barack Obama's win cannot be underestimated. Hang on. A great pyrotechnic display. I've had so many compliments about the firework display. I thought it was rather special this year. The only firework display that can be seen from the moon. A great pyrotechnics, even though the Americans thought you were celebrating their election result. Yes, well, Frank Emmerich, you can't have it. I was sitting at the wireless waiting for the splendours you promised. With all the hype, I was expecting a spectacle to equal the wonders of the Sun King's Palace of Versailles. What did I get? Nout. Not a cracker. There was nout there. I tried moving me aerial. I even had the back off the wireless in case they'd fallen down. No fire, you're as daft as a brush. Potty. And the dancing ponies were nice, though. Barnsley Chop. Who sees things others don't. Another brilliant display, thank you, Rufus Owl Boots. Well, I can't see them. You see, for everyone, there's a begrudger. Ralphie, it may be all right for that woman on the top of a mountain in Canada, and they may have a lovely view in Belgium, but because of this tree in the way, I can't even see a slight glow. Well, move your house, Ralphie. The flashbangs were particularly spectacular. I thought so, Louise. And Nove's Novelty Nebula was an absolute corker. The Taffy Tinsel Twister, Top Hole, Wogan's Whizzer, the Deadly Deadpan Deafener, and the Boggy Banger Belter. It was all a delight, Ralphie. Too much for you, I can see. And Miss Trucker Frog says, just to let you know, the remains of the virtual fireworks arrived this evening, now listed on eBay, and can be found under Firework Remains, with 100% going towards children in need. It raised 30 quid last year. Fantastic, Miss Trucker Frog. So, says Darrell Lane, who's heard me say, I never have my mobile phone turned on. No, I don't, and it does drive my family mad. I turn it on when I want to make a call, or I'm in dire straits. Anyway, my father-in-law's the same. He'll ring us when he feels like it, but if we need to contact him because we're running late or there's been an earthquake somewhere, no, mobile's never on. What is it with you old folk? Get a grip. Darrell Lane, you'll be old yourself one day. I must confess, I missed the fireworks. I had something better to do. Well, there's what's called A timely and kindly excuse. Any chance of getting your minions to put it together as a podcast? Well, it will be on the podcast, the firework display. It is already cast. It's one of the BBC's best-kept secrets, my podcast, but it's out there. I want to be able to prove to my grandchildren there really was someone daft enough to have a firework display on the radio. Daft? Come along, Earl. It's all in the mind. The sort of thing that passes into legend, like the bloke who got drunk at the Fleet Review. Oh, yes. Or the radio disc jockey who hijacked a Harrier. Oh, that was you as well. Oh, never mind. Ah, and Al Iteration of Jacksdale in Notts. Yes, I'm in Notts myself. Dear Gauleiter, I was sitting doing the crossword and listening to your programme when you read a letter about the effect that the old fireworks, the virtual fireworks, had on this budgie. And the chap was cleaning up the mess. And the clue I was pondering, 4 letters ending in it, found in the bottom of a budgie's cage. And suddenly it came to me. Of course, grit. Do you have a virtual eraser? And look, you know the way we're hoping that you'll put your old mobile into an envelope and just address it to BBC Children in Need free phone. Okay, and it will get to regenerative, and they'll give us tons of money. Oh, Lorraine says, would you just get your listener to remove the SIM card from his mobile? Look, togs are togs. Those that think they can't afford anything in the money can't buy auction. Well, yeah, we get people saying, well, no, I can't afford 40,000 for lunch with you. No, but that's all right. We'll accept your 50p or your £5 or £10. It doesn't matter. But on Saturday, here's a suggestion from Brian Island. Go to your local supermarket. Throw a few quid into one of the collecting buckets held aloft by a teenager. In response, you'll get a smile and a thank you. From a teenager. There's something money can't buy. How grand of you to disregard man flu and soldier on through the morning. Ah, sure. Dispensing her usual piffle despite debilitating sniffle, while all around you producers are yawning, or if not fast asleep. How well you face the no-snorker disgrace, with only cupcakes to ward off all trouble, but your Herculean physique is starting to creak. Old Chazanove could be your body double. Oh, how true that is. Crookie of old Bangor Town. And Glenn Williams says, the insurance assessor has been through to visit the damage in the kitchen, where we had the fire yesterday. On examining the melted remains of our radio, he confirmed my belief this was the source of the blaze. He stated his utter amazement at the number of such fires he sees in early November each year, where for no apparent reason radios have overheated, always at breakfast time, and always in the homes of his more mature policyholders. I thought it best to say nothing. Well done, Glenn Williams. Honestly, you can't have a virtual fireworks display without setting half the world on fire. And a 19-year-old youth, says Major Paddy, has changed his name to Captain Fantastic, Faster Than Superman, Spider-Man, Batman, Wolverine, the Hulk, and the Flash combined. If I were his parents, says Major Paddy, I would have changed it to, you're 19 now, grow up, start being called George again, and, oh, look over there. Those things are called girls. Go and talk to one. Great to see Radio 2 dominating the new BBC drama Little Dorrit. Yes, Dickens. Not the most cheerful of writers, was he? Well, excuse me, nose, this morning. I got a little of the runner. Good runner I have this morning. So, if you find me sneezing in the middle of one of my diatribes, you'll know what the reason is. But I'm game, of course, game for anything. Anyway, Veteran, what a condescending title. How true that is. Veteran broadcaster, Terry Wogan. Veteran, Roy Hudd, running the music hall. I saw that last night. Franny Godfrey on stage dancing. Sarah Kennedy out in the street selling baked apples. Could you ask your travel lady whether it was her that grabbed the unfortunate man that got run over by the cart in last night's episode and dragged him inside onto her table? Does Charles Snow have a part in it? That's him in The False Nose. Stabbing people. A French assassin. Not exactly perfect casting, but there's a bit on your homepage that says, listen to Wogan anytime, anywhere, says Daft Dave. Well, look here. I don't take kindly to threats. And if this is some sort of a ploy where you refuse to shut your gob unless we cough up some cash for children in need, it's working. Take what you want. Spare me the iPod. Good to hear that your news flunky got the old crystal balls out yesterday morning. He told us what the new bank rate was going to be and what the percentage fall was going to be on car sales. Wouldn't it be a good idea to wait for events to happen and then report on them? It might just help calm things down a little, says Chris. Well, yeah, and Lucy Quipment, a grumpy old woman of Grantown-on-Spey, said, "Since when has the definition of news been changed to mean something that might happen in the future?" Well, yes, we've noticed this about bulletins. Those read by the busboy this morning contained more "it is expected" and "it is thoughts" and "will be's" than actually news. Shall we rename the news slot "Crystal Balls Are Us"? It's very hard to keep people happy all the time. We're just trying to anticipate, you know. And then every so often, somebody sells us a dummy. I was well aware that once the American election was over, the BBC Breakfast News might struggle for something to talk about, says Rob Sinfield of Nailsworth. But to be fair, they've outdone themselves. One of this morning's, is it this very morning, main stories is about how horses are the latest victims of the credit crunch. They haven't mentioned global warming yet today, and I'm opening a sweepstake on the return of bird flu.
This is a download from the BBC. To find out more, visit bbc.co.uk/radio2. You can even set the podcast up to be automatically updated on your computer when it becomes available each week, so you don't even have to remember to get it. For more information, visit bbc.co.uk/radio2.
Wake up!